Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another video. What I thought I would do in this video would be kind of a reflection and look back on the previous year, because on the 23rd of March it's the 1 year anniversary since the first lockdown here in the UK because of the coronavirus pandemic. So I thought I would just look back and just reflect on how I've been able to try and cope with lockdown, the challenges, but also the things I've been able to do, the things I've been able to achieve, and why there are reasons to be optimistic as well. So that's what I thought I would do. So I think, first of all, it'd be useful to wind the clock back to early 2020 and Lent term of last year. So at that point I was in my second year. And it was going well. I was here had my studies to continue with. I was still involved with the Cambridge Union. I was doing my YouTube. I was, all things were happening as normal, as anyone would be doing. But I do remember, of course, and I've mentioned it on this channel, that around about week 5, week 6, the things were starting to get a little bit stressful because there was a lot of work, there were a lot of commitments happening at the same time. I remember, I think it was 1 week when I didn't get a YouTube video opened. I think I knew at that point that was because there were just so many things happening. That was before we got that email and that communication from the university and from the college that because of the increase in risk being brought by the coronavirus pandemic, we would have to return to our homes. And I remember being told about it and being quite stressed about it because, it was something different, something not to be expected. I wasn't sure how long this would be for. I think there was some optimism that might be able to go back at Easter, but of course that never materialized. I was very stressed, very anxious, not knowing where I would be studying, because I'm used to being able to study at university and having the structure, knowing that you've got a 9 o'clock lecture or a 2 p.m. supervision or whatever it might be. And so I was concerned about that. And I remember being quite, emotional, quite anxious. I think it was around about that point when I really kind of had a very difficult time with my mental health. And I think that was one of the first big moments when I kind of fully realized how important it is to look after your mental health as best as you can. Sometimes it is easier said than done. But I think that was something, that was a big moment. And I remember coming back home, and luckily I was able to find an arrangement where I could have somewhere to study. I could be able to get on with my supervisions, my lectures, etc. But it was not easy to adapt. And I think we can all understand this because we're used to our structures. We're used to doing this at this time or this at this time, meeting people at this time. And that wasn't there because lectures were just, in my case, lectures were recorded and just put on to Moodle, which is the main site that we use to access lecture notes and the lecture slides, etc. And that's not the same as you going to a 9 o'clock lecture and knowing that you need to be up for a 9 o'clock lecture and knowing that you've got to be at a 10 o'clock lecture afterwards or whatever it might be. So that structure was gone. And I think also studying from home is definitely different to studying at university or being at your workplace. Because I think when you're at home, there's that kind of feeling of, oh, my bed is just literally next to me. I could just go and rest on my bed. Or there's just that urge to just procrastinate and not do the work. And I have suffered from that. It's an enemy that we all face. And I've certainly suffered from it more so, I think, in the most recent lockdown that we've been in and that we're in compared to the first one. I think the first one I did procrastinate, but not as much compared to the one that we're in at the moment. I think it's just hard to adapt, and I was still anxious, still quite emotional. But I knew that I couldn't just be anxious forever. I need to try and make the best out of the situation that I was in. And so what I tried to do was, first of all, just pause and kind of calm myself down first. Before I could do anything, before I could get on with my studies, before I could do X or Y, I just needed to kind of stop and look after myself first. So, pause, relax, and just kind of gather my thoughts first and then try and organize myself. So I remember putting a list together of the things that I wanted to get done. So that could be in relation to my studies, that could be in relation to planning for the future, my future career aspirations. That could be my YouTube channel, it could be my involvement with the Kieron Union, whatever it might be. So I try to organise myself, and that doesn't mean I always stuck to my plans, always stuck to my timetables. No, I'll be honest, I try to be organised sometimes, and I don't always succeed, but I keep trying nonetheless. So yeah, I try to keep organised and keep on top of things, and that did help. I think by having a little bit of structure in what was a very unstructured situation, a very unusual situation, that did very much help. I think the other thing was obviously keeping awareness of the news, but not reading into it too much every single hour of every single day, because I think you find certainly at the beginning, you're hearing all this news about increase in cases and mortality rates and whether or not there'd be a vaccine or not. And it would, worry you, it would make me anxious. And so obviously I would be aware of the news and be aware of what's happening, but look at it in moderation and just look at it very carefully, not to upset myself or to get myself overly anxious when I don't need to be. So I think that was important as well. But I think just obviously thinking about the previous year, and obviously this year of since the first lockdown, it's just been different. Obviously it's been different, and it's not what we expected. And it really, I think, has required us to kind of rethink a lot of things about how we do things, how we work. And it's obviously, compared to what we had before, it is just taken a lot to get used to. I'm used to being with my friends, and now there are some friends, some family I have not seen in person, face to face, for over a year. Not even via Zoom, not even via Microsoft Teams or whatever platform people are using. There's some people I haven't seen. I've got, a particular friend who, I love dearly, who I have not seen since probably about January of last year. It's difficult because I want to go and see her. She means a lot to me, but of course we need to keep ourselves safe. We need to keep the people around us safe, so we're not spreading the virus or putting each other at risk. I want to be back at university. I had the opportunity to go back in Michaelmas last year, but around about that point, I was struggling again with my mental health. I was feeling a bit emotional. I was worried about going back because I wasn't sure what to expect. I wasn't sure about how things would be, and obviously the college has said this is what could be like and the kind of restrictions to expect, but I think that worried me a little bit as well. So I decided not to go back in Michaelmas, and the government effectively said you can go back in Lent term of 2021 because the rule was to stay at home. So that's where I've been, of course, for this term that's just ended. And obviously I've been celebrating my 21st birthday in lockdown as well. I've been able to catch up with friends, and I'm absolutely grateful to good friends like Martha and Hannah and Henry and Astrid in particular, who we've been in contact with. We've had Netflix parties, certainly between me, Hannah and Martha, we've had Netflix parties. I've been catching up with them, and that's been really helpful. It's not the same, of course, and we can all understand it's not the same speaking on a screen than it is speaking in person. We as humans love to speak to each other and communicate and, hear from each other and learn from each other and talk to each other. And it's not quite the same as it is in person than it is on Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So it's a different dynamic, but I'm grateful that I've had that opportunity. And there's been other socials I've gone to. So I've been to Cooler socials. Cooler is the Cambridge University Liberal Association. I've been to some of their events before in person, and they've done their utmost best to kind of keep events going on online, and they've been fun. There was a casino night I think I mentioned in a previous video, which somehow I won. Still can't believe I did that, but that was really good. And the Cambridge Union has kept going on with its events as well. Most recently we had a presidential debate, which is like the final debate of term, and that was on the law. I think it was on the motion this House believes judges make better law than politicians, and that was a fantastic event. Lord Sumption, Professor Alison Young, Lord Newberger, really good speakers at that debate. So there's been things going on, everything that was kind of going on in person before lockdown has tried to continue as best as it can in these different circumstances, in these unusual times. So, on the one hand, there has been some challenges, and definitely I think over this past year, I've had to really think about myself and and learn about myself and learn about the importance of looking after my mental health. But at the same time, there's also been some great things and some achievements that I've been able to have. Been able to, write an essay for the Cambridge University Law Society Per and Curium magazine. I did an article on the Cotalona principle, which is relevant to UK public law. I've been able to take part in virtual internships. I did some of those last summer. I've recently taken part in an advocacy competition organised by BPP. So I've been able to do things, despite the restrictions and despite not being able to do certain things or having to do it online, virtually. I've been able to do things because I think at the end of the day, life has to just go on. It has been difficult for us all, and I'm not going to for a moment say that my situation is better than this situation, because all of our situations has been different and to different extents and different severities. But I think the best thing, the thing I've learned from it is, it is a challenge, but life does have to go on. We have to make the most out of the situation that is before us, and try and still take advantage of those opportunities that might be available, whether that's in relation to your career aspirations or your studies. Whatever it might be, just trying to take advantage of the opportunities. But also think about maybe new skills. I'm sure many of you have maybe done something that you didn't do before. I'm in the process of trying to learn Korean, for example, which I never thought I would do. But that only really materialized because of a recent interest that I developed during lockdown around about summer last year, an interest in BTS, would you believe it? But through them, and through their music, I've become interested in Korean language and Korean culture, and I wish to visit Korea at some point. Probably not this year, hopefully next year. But yeah, something like that. You might have learned to ride a bike or read a book or do something different. So there have been opportunities as well as challenges. And I think just looking obviously where we are now, there are, certainly in the UK, there are good reasons to be optimistic when it comes to, of course, the vaccine rollout. And hopefully things will start to return to normal. I think it's important to recognise that, it's not, everything's just not going to just disappear overnight and just go back to normal overnight. I think it's still going to be quite a while until things do return to some degree of normality. But there are reasons to be optimistic, and I think it's important to try and stay as optimistic as you can. That isn't going to say that you're not going to have any difficult days or some bad days. I've had them. I've had some difficult days this year so far, and you just have to deal with it the best that you can. But also remember to look after yourself, and that's important. Love yourself and appreciate yourself, and maybe use this time to learn about yourself. I certainly have learned a few things about myself over this past year, things I never thought I would learn about myself. And maybe that's partially because I've had more time to think about it. I think certainly before lockdown, I was busy doing A, B, C, here, there, there the next day. And I didn't really give myself time to myself to think about what was going on and to reflect upon myself. Whereas I think at least in lockdown, that this kind of extra time that we've got, because we're cooped up in our rooms or wherever we are, at least it's given us that extra time to think about what's going on, think about the world, think about ourselves. So I think my message really, just to kind of summarize everything, is just, it has been challenging. I don't like the uncertainty about when this is going to end, when normality will return, if it will return, or what extent it will return. We don't like that uncertainty. This past year has been challenging, but at the same time, it hasn't been the end of the world, in the sense that, good things have been able to happen for me in this past year. I'm sure you've been able to do things. Hopefully you've had some good achievements over the past year, or at the very least, getting through each day, getting through each week is an achievement in itself, and that's something to take comfort in. Even if you haven't done 200 essays, or you haven't won a prize, and that's not so as important as looking after yourself and looking after yourself each day and each week. So be optimistic. I think obviously this is a good point just to obviously give our thanks to everyone in the NHS, the carers, the scientists, the researchers, the politicians, all those who have, really, worked their socks off to kind of help with the vaccine rollout in particular, for example. So we do obviously give thanks to them, because they very much deserve our thanks and our praise. So be positive, be upbeat, do your best, obviously, look after yourself and those around you. Obviously, stay safe, continue to follow the rules. It might be a little while longer you have to follow those rules, but keep following them, because they are there for a reason, to keep you safe and keep those you care about safe as well. I wish you all the best, and just remember, of course, like I said, look after yourself, love yourself, and obviously be there for those around you. And I hope you found this video interesting, or just something to listen to. If you have, don't forget to do the usual things like liking the video, follow me on all my social media, which you can find in the description below: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify. Follow them all. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Obviously, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so subscribe and hit the notification bell. And yeah, just thank you for watching the video, and just remember, life goes on, let's live on.